Are you ready to break free from the doubts and limits holding you back? Welcome to Embrace Your Value, where therapy meets coaching to help you unlock your true worth and take control of your life.
Hi, I'm Kristen, a trauma therapist dedicated to helping you heal, break old patterns, and reclaim your power.
And I'm Jen, your support coach, here to show you how to set fierce boundaries, embrace self compassion, and step boldly into the life you deserve.
So, whether you're stuck in self doubt or feeling lost, know this: your value isn't up for negotiation. It's time to own it.
Every week, we tackle real issues that challenge, inspire, and empower you to live with purpose and confidence.
So, grab your favorite drink, take a deep breath, and let's get started.
Because you're not here to play small. It's time to embrace your value. Hey, welcome back to the Embrace Your Value podcast, where we help you recognize your worth, set boundaries, and step fully into the life that you deserve. I'm Jen Anderson, here with my co-host, Kristen. Hey, Kristen.
Hey, Jen, I am so excited for today's conversation because we are diving into a topic that so many of us struggle with: discernment. How do we truly know when to trust a situation, a person, or even our own gut feelings?
Discernment is that deep inner knowing, that gut feeling that helps guide us in making wise decisions. But there's a challenge with it. Sometimes we confuse it with fear, doubt, and even overthinking. Kristen, from a therapy perspective, how do you define discernment?
Yeah, great question. And I think there's a lot of definitions. I would encourage our listeners to seek those answers out themselves. But from my perspective as a therapist, discernment is about being able to evaluate situations clearly without being clouded by emotions or past experiences or even external pressures. It's learning to separate intuition from anxiety. And that's not always easy because it feels the same in our body.
Yeah.
Does that help, Jen?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I would agree 100%. I love that you threw in there that it's being able to separate intuition from anxiety because sometimes they do feel the same or they feel similar. And unless we're really in tune with how that feels in our bodies, we don't know. So, Kristen, why do you feel like people struggle so much with discernment?
Yeah, I think in part it's what we've just talked about, but I do see it a lot with clients, and helping clients to discern is probably a good chunk of what I do, because really having our own autonomy to make decisions that are good for us within our values is probably one of the greatest gifts that anybody could ever have. I think as a society, specifically women, we've been conditioned to doubt ourselves. We struggle to trust our judgment, whether it's people pleasing, trauma responses, or just wanting external validation, something you and I have talked about before. We second guess ourselves instead of leaning in to what we know deep down.
Yes. And I think so many women, and especially women, have been taught to override their intuition. We tell ourselves, I'm overreacting, or maybe I'm just being too sensitive. Or somebody has once told us, you're so sensitive. And so then we wonder when we're being oversensitive and when we're doing other things. But really, what's happening is that gut feeling is trying to tell us something very important. I'm just going to ask our listeners, have you ever had a moment where you ignored your discernment and later regretted it? So if you're listening to this, think about that. Like, when have you thought, oh, I need to really pay attention to this and I need to really do this? but you ignored it. You were like, no, it's not that. It's me being silly. It's me just being oversensitive. And you've ignored it. And then you were like, oh, that really would have been better if I hadn't been in that situation, hadn't done that. So, yeah. Have you ever had a situation like that, Kristen?
I think we all have, right? We've all made mistakes, and that's really what we're talking about, right? Is that you had a gut feeling, you didn't follow it, it didn't turn out well, and so we stamp that as a mistake. I would say the way this shows up with clients, especially, is in relationships, right? Looking at a relationship as we look back at it, we can see all the red flags or the things that we, quote, should have noticed about the other person. And that's a lot of work that I do with people when we talk about relationships and how they end and why they ended is why didn't people say this? So they shame themselves, right? Like, why didn't I trust my gut? I knew this wasn't right for me. I knew that this person wasn't what I thought. Why didn't I trust my gut? And so it's about like, how do we discern what is instinct and what is the pressures that we feel as, like I said, people pleasing, a trauma response, right? That's tough because is a trauma response actually intuition, right? So there's some gray area in here. So I would say I think this shows up a lot in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought up a really good point and you touched on it, but I want to just expand on it a little is the fact that when we don't listen to our intuition and we don't find that discernment in that moment, evaluating it and doing some self reflection and figuring out what that felt like in our body, in our minds, what went through our brains, that really helps us to know when it pops up again. So I know that's something I work a lot with clients on is what was that like for you and what did you want it to look like? How could you have changed that situation so that next time you have a better response and result with it? So let's talk a little bit about strengthening our discernment. How do we learn to trust ourselves again?
Yes, I want to share some tips. And Jen, I would love for you to share some tips from your perspective as well. So I think that we don't have enough quiet in our worlds, right? And so if we get quiet and we listen to ourselves, right? And not just our mind, but our body. And we do things like mindfulness. We've talked about mindfulness on here, right? Being present, being right here, right now, instead of in our head and wondering what's going to happen here or what's happened there or how do I change this or whatever. Just being mindful, being aware, and noticing things about yourself, right? So, doing things like some breathing exercises, journaling exercises, doing those things so that you can reflect back on what's going on with you so that you can have a better perspective. And I think that being able to also do that with another party, whether it's your spouse or a friend or a coach or a therapist, it helps us. But those are the ways that I think we can get quiet, listen to ourselves, and start to trust ourselves again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, we touched on it at the very beginning, but I want to touch on it again, is understanding the difference between fear and intuition. Fear tends to be loud. It takes control. It wants to be the life of the party always. Fear is always like the big party girl. That's how loud it gets. But if you can listen to your intuition and shut your fear down, your intuition is your calm. It's what was right. It's how you're going down the right path because you feel it in your gut usually, and it's usually that right thing. Or you might feel it in your heart, in your soul. And you're like, oh, I know this is the right thing for me. Like the story I love to use, and I know I've shared it on here, is when I decided to become a coach. I trusted my intuition because I knew without a doubt that's what I was meant to do. There was nobody that was going to stop me from going down that path. So I think that was a lot of it for me. I just trusted my intuition. Was I scared? Absolutely. Did I know I was going to spend a lot of money? I didn't have to, but the coaching certification I wanted that I felt was right was a considerable amount of money, especially back then for me. I wasn't used to spending those kinds of lump sums. And so I was like, oh, this is big, scary, but I also knew it was the right thing.
The other thing to do is to look at patterns, not just moments, right? Like I was talking about red flags before. We want to look for patterns, right? Does this person consistently cross our boundaries, right? We set a boundary, we say, I don't want you to do this. They consistently cross them. That's a pattern. That's how we then form a red flag because maybe we've got people who have yellow flags, and that just means that maybe they're not thinking, or maybe they had a bad day, or whatever it is. So we have to look for patterns, right? Not just moments, and especially in relationships. And this could be a romantic relationship, it could be a relationship with a friend or a family member, work. We definitely want to do that. So when we look at these red flags, we want to say, okay, how is this thing going against my values? We've talked about values a lot. How is this thing going against my values? And this is a red flag for me. So I'm going to look for a pattern so that I can now discern, is this a one-time event or is this something that's going to happen over? And then you can choose to set a boundary around it or not, and then just take it for what it is and let whatever it is go.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone listening today is feeling stuck, maybe they're in a relationship, a friendship, or a job that doesn't feel right, what's the first step to practicing discernment?
Yeah, I think that if we're looking at this as a step process, I would definitely say checking your emotions. So, first of all, we have to understand how our emotions feel in our body. If everybody listening would just take a moment and think about something that makes you feel angry, okay? When I feel anger, I feel it in my gut. That's my physical manifestation of anger is my stomach starts to clench up, like I'm getting ready. So these are our fight or flight responses. So I think we need to check our emotions and say, what is this emotion about? Is this really about what's happening right now? Or is this about maybe a trauma response and it's about something that's happened in the past? You can journal about it. Or you could use like a decision making framework, which would look something like if this, then this. Or another good one is like pros and cons, right? Looking at different ways that you can be logical, because we all need to do both things, right? If we did everything out of feelings, a lot of times we'd make rash decisions. If we did everything out of logic, we wouldn't be a kind, empathetic people the way that we would want to be. So I think those are the best practical steps that people could take on their own to start working on like a real life application of these things.
And if you struggle with this at all, like you're like, I don't know, this is a good time to really consider, do I need to look for a counselor, a therapist, or a coach and really get some help, some clarity? Because the thing is, and I don't know, I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, but maybe it's been a while. But really, the thing is that if you decide you need some help, number one, there's nothing wrong with that. And number two, it doesn't have to mean it's long term. You don't have to work with somebody long term for years and years. You can, but you don't have to. I can't speak for Kristen, but I know for me, I love it when I have long term clients, but I also really love it when my clients do the action steps. But sometimes people take such good action that they move through things quickly and then they make such forward progress. They're ready. And that's okay too. I love that. I love to see them come in and then go and be amazing and do that. It's okay. You get to decide that. So I don't know. I just felt called to share that because I felt like that was something that maybe somebody who's listening to this really needs to hear. So I want you to understand that discernment is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. My clients hear me say all the time, this is going to take practice. And it's the same thing. It's going to take practice. So today, I challenge you, where in your life do you need to trust yourself more? And then I want you to take one step forward, listening to your inner wisdom.
Yeah, I think Jen's absolutely right. The more we use it, the better off it'll be. We'll learn to trust it more. So I know that everyone out there has the capability of doing this. So just give it a try. Start with something small, right? It doesn't have to be a big life decision, but it could just be something small. Do I have chocolate ice cream or vanilla? And just start stepping outside of your box. See how those things feel in your body. Think about the fear versus intuition that Jen talked about earlier. Think about that and how that feels. And if today's episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive deeper, join us in our community where we continue these conversations and we try to vary all things that people need. So we encourage you to speak up, send us an email, let us know some things that you want to hear about. So until then, remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you can trust yourself.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for being here with us today.
If today's episode hit home, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Because everyone deserves to know their worth.
Next week, we're diving even deeper with more insights and tools to help you break free from limitations and live authentically.
Until then, keep raising your standards, owning your worth, and embracing your value.